Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. As we usually do, please begin our meeting with a moment of silence. Today I want you to keep in your thoughts Leo Curley, who's one of our predecessors on the select board up here. He also served on the Whitman School Committee and the Whitman-Hanson School Committee after regionalization. So, thank you. Thank you. I need to announce that this meeting is being recorded and televised by WHCA and with some new equipment. So Ryan, flag us if anything goes wrong. I need a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I need a motion to accept correspondence into the read file.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public forum. Anybody with matters not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none. Seek a motion to approve meeting minutes from open session April 10th, 2026.
So moved.
Second. All right. Discussion. Donnie abstaining because that was prior to your. Maybe April 10th.
What was the date?
April 10th.
April 10th.
Oh, no, I watched that meeting. I will
Okay.
vote in favor.
Great. All right. So yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Appreciate it.
That was the 4-minute meeting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Seek a motion to approve meeting minutes for open session June 2nd, 2026.
So moved.
Second. All right. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Motion for June 17th, 2026.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And a motion for June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And we are actually no time posted on my agenda. Does the public have a time for the hearing? Probably not. All right. Public meeting regarding the application of Imperial Auto Group, Inc., Danilo Kelber Tematillo de Silva for Class 2 auto dealer's license on the premises located at 10 Buckley Ave, subject to the receipt of a $100 license fee. Proof of a surety bond as required by MGL Chapter 140, Section 58, and final approval inspection of the building commissioner. So, open the hearing. Is there anyone from the applicant that would like to speak? Please come on up and introduce yourself.
This seems to help.
Sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Are you Danilo?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome. And you are just taking over the existing business there? Okay. Are there any questions from the board? No? Anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you.
All right. Then do you have a motion?
I have a motion.
I'll second. Motion approved. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Right. Chairman's report. I actually don't have anything tonight.
Ooh.
Yeah, right. Move on to new business. So we have a vote to appoint Shannon Murphy to the position of Veteran Services Officer effective August 3rd, 2026, subject to successful negotiations.
Yeah, so moved.
All right, we'll do some discussion. Is Shannon here?
Yep.
Come on up, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Shannon Murphy, and I like to be the new VSO for Whitman. I really enjoy the community, and I really want to help veterans in our area.
Awesome.
Very good.
Awesome. Anything to add or?
Sure. So Shannon Murphy was a Coast Guard veteran, is a Coast Guard veteran with experience in military records management, public service, and firsthand knowledge of the Department of Veterans Affairs system. During her service in the Coast Guard, she managed confidential medical and personnel records, assisted service members with military documentation and benefits-related processes, and maintained records with the DEERS system. Shannon personally navigated the VA system herself. She understands the challenges veterans face and the importance of providing knowledgeable, compassionate guidance. And we're thrilled to have her.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Anything else from the board? All those in favor?
Hi, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll still
Appreciate
have the
that.
executive session.
Yeah, stick around for the
later.
executive session, please.
Okay.
All right, I need vote to rescind the appointment of Timothy Clancy Jr. from the position of Forest Fire Warden effective July 10th, 2026.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote to rescind the appointment of Timothy Clancy Jr. from the position of Director, Whitman Emergency Management Agency effective July 10th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And in a related motion, vote to appoint Nick Grasso to the position of Forest Fire Warden in order to fill an existing vacancy.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And vote to appoint Nick Grasso to the position of Director, Whitman Emergency Management Agency in order to fill an existing vacancy.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Nick. Vote to appoint Mike Cogran to the position member Capital Committee for a 3-year term through June 30th, 2028 in order to fill an existing vacancy.
So moved.
Second.
Just add that this is only possible because of an amended bylaw at town meeting this past May, so appreciate allowing all staff members to serve on town committees. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Available licenses. I asked to put this on the agenda, sort of a spin out of the economic development conversation. And I believe we have a list in our packets. Yes, so currently, the town has 6 available on-premises all alcohol licenses for any establishments interested. And we currently have 5 available wine and malt beverage licenses for anybody interested in that. We also currently issue 1 Farmers Series pouring permit, which we renew every year for the brewery. And I believe there is 1 available cannabis license, although that's not listed here because we had 1 turn it back in. So just throwing that out there for any of the new multi-use buildings that are looking to fill. Yeah, Don.
Can we just add that the number of licenses are dictated by our town population?
Correct.
So we don't decide how many.
Yeah.
So we have a total of 16 all alcohol. 10 are being held, so 6 are available.
Correct.
My question would be, what can we do to support or encourage or outreach to encourage more restaurants to come to town?
And actually, my thought was, do we want to encourage some of the wine and malt beverage license restaurants to apply for all alcohol licenses, just to broaden their available drink options? I don't know. Yeah, Sean.
I think connecting this with like the Chamber of Commerce kind of idea, we're gonna start to do those sorts of things, start an
Yeah.
organization like that. I think developing a network of, business partners and then just beginning to,
But that would be the organization that a town would normally tell,
Yeah.
hey, these are the available alcohol and cannabis licenses.
Because I think there's a real opportunity there to increase meals tax.
Yeah.
Right, revenue, certainly with 6 additional businesses.
My
The-
God, you were just thirsty.
Well, there's already options in
Yeah.
town, just sort of
Yeah.
trying to expand on the options, right?
But yeah, we do have a couple of multi-use buildings that I think are looking to fill some open spots, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
these would be, some of them would be downtown attractive restaurant venues.
right.
Okay.
Thank you. for
Yep.
sharing
Yeah, no
that.
motion on that, but
Mary
the,
Beth? Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
If I may,
Mary Beth.
just, the town does not have a cap on any other category of license issued by the office.
true, yeah, we can
So
issue as
there's-
many virtual gaming licenses.
Correct, correct. So that's good to know as well. There's no limit there.
We don't cap Keno.
No.
Okay. South Shore Tech debt exclusion question. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mary Beth, but I know we've been dancing around this for a while.
We have. So I think that we should put this debt exclusion question out again to the public, to the residents of Whitman. All the town building projects in recent years have been funded with through a debt exclusion. the Whitman Hanson Regional High School, when that was built, debt exclusion. The Whitman Police Station, when we did that, we did renovations on the town hall and the fire department. That originally was not a debt exclusion, if you remember, but it really hurt our general fund and our spending and our capital, what we could do on that. So a few years later, several years later, we did vote that as a debt exclusion. And because it is so hard to do out of the general fund. The Whitman Middle School, debt exclusion. The brand new DPW, debt exclusion. So, you know, it would be great if we had a yes campaign out there for this. The Whitman Middle School, they pushed that hard, and they were successful at doing it. So it's going to impact, and I would say severely impact, our budget, our general fund, if we have to absorb the debt payment within the levy. So just in case anybody, you know, isn't quite sure what a debt exclusion is, a debt exclusion allows a municipality with voter approval to raise property taxes outside the normal Proposition 2.5 levy limit for the purpose of paying the debt service on a specific capital project. Unlike an operating override, a debt exclusion is temporary. So it's for the life of the project, the life of the debt. And when that debt ends, that debt exclusion ends as well. So I think that it's important that we bring a vote, you know, have a special election. The town clerk has mentioned 2 dates in January, actually, January 23rd or January 30th. And I'm thinking if we are going to have a special town meeting, that it might make sense to have the special town meeting and the special election fairly close together, you know, while everything is being discussed and in the forefront of people's minds. So I think that we do need to talk about a debt exclusion. And yes, I have information on a yes vote and a no vote, but more importantly, we need to get the word out there. How would that impact us and the general fund if a debt exclusion were not successful? Whether that's a percentage, you know, every department would take some sort of a cut to free up the $1 million+ amount that is expected to come due. But we need to get that out there specifically on how the board would like to, you know, you could certainly look at departments and say essential departments and non-essential. We all know how that went last year with the library. That did not go over well. Then you could do, you know, a certain percent off every department to come up with that difference. But even a small percent on some of those smaller departments is going to be devastating. It would be devastating for any department, large departments. We don't want to cut our public safety, our police, our fire, our DPW. But I think it's important that we make a decision, the board makes a decision whether or not they want to go forward with a debt exclusion vote.
Yeah, Sean.
I do, and I think the messaging is important. Not that I have it down, but I think making sure that we strategically do message what's going on. I mean, we're not trying to pass. The project has already passed. That's not in question.
And Whitman voted for it.
And Whitman voted for it. The question is how we're going to pay for it. So they're just sending us the bill. All of these projects of these size are funded through a debt exclusion. If for some reason there was confusion or people decided to vote this down, there would be draconian cuts in our departments. And we need to make sure people understand, you know, one, what they're voting for, and two, the repercussions of what happens if it's not.
If I may.
Yeah, Dan.
I think it didn't pass the first time because we had 2 debt exclusion questions on there. One was that they do an override, right? But we eliminated that because we were able to cut it out of the budget. But it was already printed, so it was there. And I think people just said, no, 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 and just hit no, no on both of them, right? Not realizing, you know. But they need to understand that the town voted for the new school. Every other district in the town voted for it, the debt exclusion, all the other 8 towns. So the project's gonna go on whether we vote for it or not. but we'll just have to pay for it within the levy limit, which will really devastate our budget, devastate our town, I believe. So the town wanted it, and now they need to step up and pay for it.
Yeah, Dawn.
Mary Beth, do you have information on the numbers? Because I think that's what people will need to hear. And
I do have some numbers when we, and this is some of the information that we did put out around town meeting as well. The social vote tech has not decided whether it's going to be a level debt service or debt payment or a level principal. So,
I'm just going to
Yep.
interrupt you also. I want to clarify my question. When would the town of Whitman be charged, if you will, with the first payment for this building? Because as the gentleman just said, the 8-member town's already approved to build this project, getting built, and Whitman
Yeah,
is
they're not
going to
getting
have
billed
to
yet.
pay for it. So yeah, when would the first assessment, if you will, for
Yep.
the building
I
come?
recall that was a,
It was a dual,
graph
and
program,
I
yeah, it
brought
was
this,
undecided.
I brought this with me. So for fiscal '27, originally, they thought that we would be billed a small amount, but the South Shore VOTEC did not bill the towns for anything in '27. So they're still toying with the idea of either starting the bond in '28 or in '29. If they actually go to bond in '28, there will be a bond payment due in fiscal '28, and it depends whether it's level debt or level principal. Level debt, 1.9 million, level principal, 2.2 million. If they start the bond in fiscal '29, there'll still be a debt payment due in '28 because they won't bond until '29, but they'll take a ban out in '28, and that's $1.1 million, just about $1,093,000.
Yeah, I think what she's looking for, what, on that, what's the increase in the tax bill?
Right, so
On the
the,
average tax bill, I think it's like, $25, $30 a quarter or something like that, or $40 a quarter.
so the level debt service, over the life of the project is about $267 a year.
Right.
And that's based on the fiscal '26 tax rate of an average single-family home with a value of $516,263. The level principal is about $414 the first year, and then it declines to $8.37 in the 30th year. The difference being between level debt service and level principal is the debt service is, people know the amount every year that they're going to pay. It's very constant, but in the end, the town is paying more in interest. So for the town projects that we've done, speaking with our financial advisor, we have gone with the level principal
Yeah.
to save interest. However, this project, I would say more than likely is going to end up with a level debt service, is how I really think that's going. Not so sure on that yet, but
Wait,
That'll be a decision of would it be the South Shore VOTEC School Committee or the Building Committee? I mean, it's
altogether.
effectively the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's more people in the building. committee.
Yeah.
so it does cost more interest over time, but, you know, we went through this with the Whitman Middle School, the pros and the cons and whatnot.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to follow up. You mentioned about the Whitman Middle School had citizens who sort of had a campaign with voting yes.
They did well.
But this is different from that because that was a yes campaign and the voters were agreeing to pay for it with a debt exclusion. Okay, so this South Shore VOTEC building vote happened 2 separate times. So a year and a half ago in January 2025 is when the towns voted to, do you want to build a new VOTEC? It didn't talk about how you're going to pay for it. Now we're faced with a vote on, and it isn't necessarily, well, it is how you want to pay for it, but we're going to have to pay for it anyways. Like the middle school one was, if it's a no vote, then
But it was all
it,
conditional. once.
the debt doesn't happen. The building project doesn't happen. This is going to happen, and the
You're gonna
debt's
pay.
coming. So I think it's critically important that whatever information you have now that you're reading off of, that we somehow formulate that to get it on the website, so that when people do start, and yes, they're on social media, and say, here they come at us again. We already said no. They come in, we can point them back to facts, right? We can
Yeah.
say, here's the information on the website. And talk about the consequences of our
Not
town
passing it.
budget. Yeah.
Right.
This is, what kind of town do you want to live in? These are the services. This is all the revenue we have, but our expenses are going up by 1.9 million in a year.
1 point,
Like,
oh,
the expense,
$1
because
million.
that's the total debt cost, $1 million. So our
million.
expenses are gonna go up by that. So that's really the message, and I don't know if, you know, how, we need to vote on that before, you know, to get that information out, or if it's still sort of preliminary because the VOTEC school committee hasn't.
No, I
technically
mean, a
voted.
lot of this information is, you know, the pros and cons of the debt exclusion and the cost and the impact, but not what will the cuts look like. Okay, that's what I think we need to discuss a little bit here.
Right. This would effectively be our override vote, right? Except that it's only in the negative. So if this doesn't get approved, the cuts to the town departments because voters rejected paying this bill outside the levy limit would be
Oh, vicious.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so it's I guess my question is, does January, we'll say 30th to use the second date, does that give the next town administrator enough time with this board to assemble a budget, whether or not this passes? I think February, March, final numbers from the schools. It's
I
probably
mean,
the
we
right
wouldn't
time.
have the final.
Yeah.
The final numbers, we never do until,
No.
you know, March, from the,
But that
from
would
the
be-
district. But
I'm thinking back to the FinCom calendar. They've probably met with department heads by that point, end of January.
usually send something out in September to the department heads and then October for capital items.
Okay.
Sorry, Sean.
Yeah, sure.
No, it's okay. I'm thinking more the other direction. If we had an earlier special, I know we'd have to be careful about holidays, but I was thinking more like the beginning of November. Then we'd have a definitive answer going into the budget season. Whereas if we're in late January and we need to know, you know, like where the school budget's coming in, we're putting together our budget, and then whether or not this passes, it's a lot.
I just think that for the clerk's office to put together, we've got a state primary September 1st. We've got a gubernatorial election November 3rd. Each of those have early voting periods. It's a very stressful period for a staff that we've reduced in recent years.
Would be odd to match it up with the November 3rd.
We could do that. It would be the 10th ballot question on that. It would get buried on the second page. And then do you get information out about
sure.
the repeal the gun law, like all the other stuff going on? Yeah.
Question to follow up with Sean, where he just mentioned putting the ballot question on in November. Do we need to have a town meeting again to vote to place a ballot question, or no?
It's
We
just a
can
vote of the
just
select board.
select board to have a ballot question. So really, we could have it ballot question. So we don't need
We
a
don't need
special
to-
town
We don't need
meeting.
to tie this to a town meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
Town
I
meeting would
need
be
to
a good way to get the word out about,
Right.
Saturday there's a election, please vote.
yes. Right.
Mary Beth, and then I'll
The-
go back to John.
Right.
The attorneys have opined that you do not need to have anything on the special town meeting.
Yeah, you
for
don't have
this
to
debt exclusion.
authorize the,
It's already been,
the town
Yeah.
meeting doesn't have to authorize
It's
this.
already been
No.
passed.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
correct.
okay.
John.
John Galvin, High Street. If you're attempting to put it on the November ballot, I think it's a separate ballot altogether with a separate check-in. So you'd have to check in twice.
So-
You'd have to check in to get your, regular ballot, then you'd have to go back and check in to get your debt exclusion ballot and then go vote again. So
And
it's a
John,
double process.
I think that's the case for the September primary. I don't think it's the case for November. We did put the Community Preservation Act on the presidential ballot in November as one ballot.
I know when we tried to do it with the middle school vote,
Right.
we were told by the clerk that it would be two ballots. So, because we tried to do it, we ended up
You're right.
pushing the middle school vote to December because of that.
She was not in favor.
No,
She-
it would
yeah.
it would be chaotic.
Yeah, so I just, keep that in mind.
I think we obviously need to do something. I don't know that we should decide tonight, though. I think this needs to be thought out thoroughly because it really makes a difference. If we put it in the back of a ballot and it's chaotic and it just kind of falls apart, then that's really on us, you know, so
Yeah.
we really do want to be strategic about this, and I don't know that we have the right answer right now.
I am a little worried, like, if we get back a no, even if it's because we buried it in the back of a 2-page ballot, I think that's the last time we ask. We have to deal with once we can say we didn't get the message out, like the board failed to explain the consequences of this. But if we get a second no, it would be really hard to
Right,
ask a
exactly.
third time, right? That's just,
Unless in a few years down the road, they see the impact,
I
at
guess,
that
before
point,
we
they
start
may-
paying, we can't ask a third time, maybe
I agree.
a few years in.
I
but-
agree.
I think we need to clarify what, if it's a $2 million bond payment, what does $2 million look like out of the operating budget? And consequences of that, I think when people see it, I think that'll get their attention.
So how would you like to see that across all departments? To run the scenarios?
I think the shared burden message, I think, is appropriate, but I don't know exactly how you do that because of some logistical challenges, but I do think, yeah, across all departments.
I think at least preliminarily, you could probably put out like obviously we can't touch the healthcare, the non-movable lines, the fixed costs we leave
Right,
where they
can't.
are.
Contractual, you can't.
Do a across the board balanced cut in the rest and figure out what that 5-10% across everybody else looks like.
To your point, Plymouth County Retirement is still going to assess us.
Right.
They're assessing. And
Yeah.
our OPEB liability lines, there are costs that are not discretionary.
Pay for all municipal health group, health insurance.
Yeah.
Right,
Some of these are bills.
exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't really be in favor of cutting, especially police and fire. I mean, there's safety issues. And especially the fire department, the ambulance. I mean, that's going unbelievable amount. And I just don't think by eliminating some personnel in the fire department, and we eliminate an ambulance run, and we only run with one, you'll have a lot of people, if something happens to them, you have to have another town come in,
Mhm.
and that's time, and time could be life.
And I think a town just did that, East Bridgewater, one of the
Every
towns
town.
went down to one ambulance, so our mutual aid is
Right. been
picking
going
up
there,
because of
right.
that. So
Yeah.
these are all things to consider, but to run the different scenarios, is it looking at departments that are, and I don't mean this to trigger anyone, but like essential, police, fire, DPW, or a non-essential, which would be library, COA, recreation, although who wants to move to a town that does not have those things?
Those
Right,
are essential to
exactly.
people
Right.
too.
But they're
So
not
it's-
life and death essential. You know what I mean? When people look at, so
I think
which
we
avenue?
kind of went through this last year, and
We
the
did.
message from the community seemed to be, can't just pick and choose departments. So I think we should do it across the board, and you can do certain things like roughly $75,000 for an employee, or whatever, some rule of thumb for the amount of money that if you had to cut, that might be helpful, but
I mean, I can do scenarios. We can start
Yeah.
scenarios either way. I've done 4 different scenarios last year, the year before, and it's like across the board, and it's don't touch public safety. But still, we want to be clear in whatever way we're going when we're putting this information out to the taxpayers.
I honestly think if you said like it's 10% across the board, and then a 10% cut from the library would result in this, a 10% cut from public safety would result in this, a 10% cut from, that
It
at
gets
least it looks like it is the
Fair and equitable is,
Yeah.
across the board, and this is how it then would affect each of those departments.
right. That gets difficult for the small departments,
Of course
but
it
then
does.
you look at, do you close town all Monday? Like, what is or the senior center's a 3-day-a-week senior center? Like, there's probably places to at least project those cuts.
so start with across the board. Does that, no, yes,
I'm not really
I'm in
that
favor.
favor, but I understand what
I
you're
agree
trying to
with
say.
that.
you do.
Yeah, I think it's at least to plan this out now.
See
That's
what it affects, yeah.
probably where we look.
Where we start.
So I think, and I'm in favor too. I think we should plan on calling a special election to ask this again. We could put it on a future agenda. We don't need to, vote the language until
No, no.
whatever short period before. But in order to give the community time, if there's a yes campaign that might form, we want to get our information together and give a date to the public to start planning this. So if we're,
I mean, it's just the outpouring of support for their new building and for the trades and for the education that this building provides is there. People want this. It's not in our community. We're a member of this social vocational education. So I want to say appeal to the heartstrings, right? Appeal to the purpose of this debt. Everyone overwhelmingly says all the time, we need more trades. And the school is adding a veterinary program. They're adding plumbing. They don't have those. I mean, you should speak to this, Dan, right? You're
I mean,
sitting on
right,
that
and-
board. I'm just,
and we're gonna go with a 900 student school, right? We'll probably be able to fit 1,000. We only have a 600 student school now. We had 700 in it, but we're just turning people away, especially Whitman. I asked Tom. Tom says, yeah, with this new school, those towns will get more students available to go to the school. You know.
and there's a cost to it. I mean, that's what we're saying.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
and
gonna happen,
it's-
but we have
right.
to pay for it.
And just to let you know, our last building committee meeting, the school is coming in under budget.
Doesn't surprise me with
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah, really under budget.
Maybe we could, I'm asking the chair
Yeah.
and Dan, if you'd be willing to give some more updates, right? A few more meetings
On
about
board.
the building
I think-
project.
yeah, maybe
That might be good
I
to,
think inviting Tom even to come and give us an update would be a helpful.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean,
Outside
On a
of budget
regular
season, he's
basis.
probably
more
available. Yeah.
information, it can't
On a
hurt.
regular basis too,
Yeah.
you know, once a month or,
Or Dan can pitch in every
Yeah.
other or
Yeah.
something.
I mean,
Put
go
Dan
online,
on the
you can watch
agenda.
our meetings.
Yeah,
But it's
that makes sense.
such an important education.
But we're not ready to say either of the two dates the clerk threw out today, right?
What, can you repeat those dates?
January 23rd and 30th.
we have the crystal ball and could predict the
I
snowstorm.
know, right? January is always tough. So the 23rd,
Yeah.
again, I guess getting into our next conversation, if we were trying to plan it around a special town meeting, the Monday before the 23rd is Martin Luther King,
I see.
What?
I see.
Martin Luther King Day.
So would you be leaning more towards Monday, the 25th and Saturday, the 30th?
I think so.
Yeah. I'd lean towards that as well.
It would give,
I know it pushes it that much closer to February, but
yeah.
gives the month of January.
And it still gives us plenty of time on the back end, whether it passes or fails, to prepare a budget for May.
I know Tom would be, you would glad to come in and talk the, pros of the school and, and it's not that much of an increase when you, look at, what we're getting. I mean, you said it was like, what, $400 a year? I mean, no,
267 if you do the level debt.
a year.
Correct.
And to divide that by 4 on their bill.
$20 a month,
Right, I mean,
20 a month.
and that's, spend more when you go out to dinner.
Mhm.
Right? I didn't understand why it wasn't passed.
So, Sean, any hesitation on January 30th? I mean, it obviously compresses the timeline for everything else, but
I definitely have hesitation, but I think we have to go with something. I just feel like it's gonna coincide with the FY28 budget in a funky kind of way, but.
Yeah.
We can always.
right with the
make a
new,
change.
yeah, I guess we're
Are
not,
we avoiding December just for the purpose of
I think for the holidays.
Because we know November's out of the question with the election. And then you have Thanksgiving, so.
Yeah, so you could do early, I mean, just looking at the calendar, we could probably do early December. Because the
7th
two
and 12th.
Saturdays are right at, day after Christmas, day after New Year, well, yeah, it's January, but.
It's all about how to get the messaging
Yeah,
out.
I just feel like this is too rushed. I'd rather
Okay.
more time to think it through a little bit.
Before we
'cause
pick a date.
I
I
think
feel like
that's
there's
fine.
a lot of layers. And
We can revisit
it
this.
is a big decision.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Maybe we'll get an update from Tom for the next time we talk about it.
Mm.
All right, so the next one, discussion special town meeting, sort of along the same lines. If do we need a special town meeting, and if so, what are the issues? I know. I guess RAC is probably one of the drivers. Mary Beth, anything?
Yes, so,
You
and
have
I
things
know
on your
that,
list, yeah.
that discussion will come up under the committee updates. However, if we were to have a special town meeting, considerations might be the RAC, the Regional Agreement Committee article, and I know that Sean will be discussing that in a little bit. Another item is our Pitney Bowes postage metering machine. There was an article several years ago to allow the town administrator to enter into a 6-year contract. They entered into a 5-year contract, and that contract is expiring. The article was very general in nature, and I was hoping that would cover us to enter into the next one. But a town council has opined that we need another article to enter into a 5-year contract. Of course, going with a 5-year contract, the rates are that much cheaper than a 4 or a 3 or 2-year contract. So whether this is done at a special town meeting this fall or the special within the annual, that is an item. In the meantime, if our contract, when it expires, they'll do a 3-month at a time of renewal. But that's one item. The
Can I
other,
ask what service they provide? Pitney Bowes?
Pitney Bowes, I'm sorry, it's our postage metering
Yeah.
that we run all of our bills through for postage. Yep.
Okay.
And another article is the Community Preservation Committee, CPC. We had talked to Ryan about the Corthell building, and that is an historic building, so it qualifies for us to use CPC funds. And I believe Ryan had said as well that conservation maybe, or 2 other articles for CPC funds if we were going to put it out.
Jacob's Lane, right? The
Yeah.
couple acres.
So there's a, yeah, there's a fall town meeting that
We could do
discussed
as
as well. Yeah.
And the reason for the Corthell is, yes, it would be wonderful to use some CPC funds to restore it and beautify it. However, it does not currently have a sprinkler system. It was not required, but if we're changing use of the building now, to me, before you beautify it, let's put in a safe
Right, like
sprinkler
safety
system.
before, yeah.
Right,
cleaning
put
up.
safety first. So I think that that's an item if we're having a special town meeting. And then also, just a couple other articles that we talked about for community preservation. And I would just suggest if we're having a special town meeting, in case there are any prior year bills that were missed, we just want to make sure that we, I would say, have it after free cash is certified. And I know the accountant, Jenna Genti, will be speaking about free cash, later on in the agenda as well. So, Justin, I think, as you were saying, nothing really monumental to call for a special.
Yeah.
We have a few items. The regional agreement would be probably the most important one.
I think so. We can come to terms with the regional agreement, and we definitely have made some progress. I think that'll be a huge difference between going into FY28 kind of at odds still with the regional agreement and how that tension kind of folds into the budget process, as opposed to if we can be on the same page going into FY28. I think it'll have a much better vibe working together with the school and Hanson instead of at odds with one another. So for me, I feel like FY28 is a big budget, and being on the same page with our partners is a major goal. I think it would really help with the budget process.
So maybe once, not to commit to something right now, but once we have the regional agreement committee at a next meeting, we could see if you want to call one.
I think that's probably the right call. Yeah. So for my time on the regional agreement committee, the timeline was that the select boards agree on the language. The regional agreement committee has a full draft. It goes back to everyone to vote. School committee, both select boards. Then it needs to go through probably school council throughout that process, but DESE needs to sign off on it. They've been reviewing everything with MARS, the Association of Regional Schools, throughout the process. And after DESE's preliminary approval, it goes to town meetings, gets voted in both towns, and then DESE gets the actual rubber stamp at the end. All that takes time. Even a January special, that we might be able to, if we're almost there, squeeze something together. But I think even October, Hanson's timeline would be tight. So, I don't know. Yeah,
we had this conversation at the committee, and we know it's an aggressive timeline, and there may be a chance that it doesn't work out for an earlier fall town meeting, but I think for a later meeting, I'm optimistic that it will.
I think, to what you said, yeah, I think it would signal a willingness to work with Hanson and with the school district for us to even take the first step if Hanson waits till the annual town meeting. Okay. I think that's that, and we'll revisit that, I think, when we get more feedback from the RAC. Set meeting schedule. So we are meeting next week. The only topic on the agenda will be town administrator interviews. So if we had any regular business to handle in August, we could either compress it all to the 18th or 25th or something, or have 2 more meetings in August, which probably means this week, next week, and the week after. 3 consecutive weeks, not a problem, but just flagging it for.
11th
The
and
board.
25, 25th.
I think we need, Mary Beth's retiring in September, so we probably will have a lot more to get done.
11th and 25th?
11th and 25th work for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure I was in the right dates.
Now, what time on August 4th next week?
Good question. I think we're planning on 6 o'clock.
Correct.
I think we discussed that last meeting.
Yep, that's what I have.
Yeah, town administrative search is an old business, so we can wait for that update. But old business. Vote to appoint Deputy Fire Chief Nicholas Grasso as, I'm going to say, interim fire chief instead of acting, subject to successful negotiations based on the draft contract that we have. Do we have a motion for that appointment?
So moved.
Second.
Or any other discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye,
Congratulations.
there you go.
You also need to stick around for executive session. Update town administrator search. So, Mary Beth, where are we at?
Okay, so we had 25 applicants. We interviewed 6, and then we pared that down to 3 that we'll be bringing forth next week. So the 3 have been notified. I don't think we want to go into any names this evening, but
It'll be on an agenda tomorrow.
it'll be on an agenda that will be posted tomorrow by the end of the day for Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we've made some great progress, and we have 3 great candidates to bring forward.
Yes. And I think the plan is, start the meeting at 6 and just jump right into interviewing the 3 applicants. We would like to decide and hold an executive session for the board to set the terms of contract negotiations to empower either myself or Mary Beth probably to begin that negotiation process and come to terms with an agreement and a start date and all that will follow from there.
Sounds like a plan.
So Mary Beth.
Okay, so my question is, we've lined up the interviews. We told the people to be here 6, 6:30, and 7. And we're doing it alphabetically in order.
Mhm.
That's the way that we decided. But we were thinking, we used a document that Matt Dyer had put together, thank you, Matt, for questions for the interview. And so that we certainly could compile questions. If each of you wanted to send maybe 3 questions to us, we can compile a document, probably only using 2. With 5, that's 10 questions.
That was
and-
going to be my next ask.
Right.
How in depth do we want to get? Oh, perfect timing. How in depth do we want to get? And to set sort of some limits so that maybe do we want Matt to review our questions in advance so we're not asking the same question back to back? I know that has come up in prior interviews by this board.
That's why I said 3 from
Yeah,
each of
3
you,
from each.
because there will be some overlap, and then just put them in order of your priority.
Right.
So
they have
your
to be
1
the
and
same
2 will
question.
definitely,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The intent would be to ask the same questions to every applicant. If
Yeah,
there's
same question.
natural follow-ups,
exactly.
dig into it. But John.
Okay, because I do have a little bit of trouble with the mechanical nature of preset questions.
Yeah.
I get kind of the purpose, but I do like kind of reading the moment and just kind of having more of a natural feel to an interview. So I guess maybe allowing some balance for that.
I think come in with your topic, your planned question, and if there's a if it goes an interesting way, yeah, ask the follow-up that
More
that
follow-ups.
leads there. But yeah, if it's for the sake of fairness, it's always, yeah. Listen, yeah, work for the state. We have our very rigorous HR has approved this question set. This is what you ask everybody. We don't have the luxury of HR other than Mary Beth and Matt here. So,
But I agree, asking the same question, and then it leads you, depending on their response, to a follow-up question that may
Yeah.
be different for the candidates. But the initial question, so everybody was pretty much asked, the same topics and so forth.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm thinking it through too, and similar, Sean, struggling because I wonder if, depending on the candidate and depending on how they give their introduction, I imagine, I might want to dig in a little deeper on something in their specific experience.
Right.
So I don't know. So you're saying we should submit 2 questions, and then Matt's gonna decide, or you're gonna
No.
decide?
Right, we would look at them to see if there's duplication. So we had thought maybe 3, but really there'd only be 2 each, probably, because there will be some duplication. We did
Right,
find
that
that
happened last
before.
time,
It
yeah.
does,
yeah,
it
and that
does
happened with
happen.
us in the screening committee as well.
Right. So-
But the applicants may open the door to a question that you
Absolutely.
like what happened,
And is the half hour enough? How did
I
your
think realistically, it'll probably go an hour, but if you post it for an hour apart and someone wraps in 45 minutes, you have to wait the extra.
okay? So we're okay if it goes over the half hour.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
thinking an
We're
hour.
expecting it to go over.
We just want the person
and I think
here
we're telling
and
each of the
plenty of
applicants
time.
that
Oh,
we're
okay.
that they may each run long. We're
Correct.
setting the agenda short so that we can just continue.
Okay, I was thinking we had
No,
to be done in like 25 minutes.
no, I think if
Not for this. that
Okay.
would
we're
be
making
impossible.
important decisions, we will let it play out.
Right.
Um,
And if you don't want to submit questions in the past, if
Yeah.
you've just asked,
yeah, and so for
that's fine too.
past
Whatever you.
interviews, we also have not submitted questions. This is kind of a new thing I'm asking. Although for Community Paradigm, Dan and I did submit question sets
Yeah.
for them. That was the Zoom interview.
Yeah.
And they did basically the same process. They cut it down to a couple questions, kind of spread them around the board,
Yeah,
So
because
each-
I remember
worked in our topic areas.
some of the questions I was gonna ask, somebody else already asked
Correct.
before me.
Correct.
But for ATA interviews in the past, I know
Yeah.
we've come in with the same questions.
Yeah.
And we ask them anyway. And I think you'll get more out of the interview if we're allowing some of that follow up, but have, vetted the questions in advance through somebody else.
I don't love the word vetted.
Yeah, that's probably the wrong word.
Maybe like organize the
Yeah,
question.
organize, yeah. I do want to. Yeah, I'm not gonna ask Matt to edit any of the content of the question. Ask what you're looking for. And I do think that if there are unique questions, I don't want to speak for Chrissy, but we have met all the candidates. I think if Sean has 3 interesting questions, Dawn has 3 interesting questions, I'm happy to take 2 and Chrissy 2, and
Yep.
we'll allow the extra space for some of that interesting stuff.
Yeah, you guys have the benefit of
Right? Yeah. Kind of setting these ground rules out.
just having seen the candidates
Yeah.
already. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe you would have better questions, having already had knowledge of them too,
It could be, yeah.
right? Like you would be able to dig in where I'm thinking.
I do think
just
that, yeah,
high
when
level.
we post the agenda tomorrow, can we get the resumes out to everybody else?
Right, we'll
on the
get the
board?
references, right?
Yeah.
Mm,
That way we can look at the references and come
So
up
yeah,
with.
normally we would send the agenda back up on like Thursday afternoon, Friday morning. I think we can probably expedite that
That's a
so
good,
that the board can start preparing.
Sure.
good question you brought up about references. Did you and Chrissy check references? How is that handled?
I don't believe we've done that yet, but before
Are we
haven't checked
allowed
references
to
yet.
check references
No.
individually?
No, so for the ATA interviews, we called references prior to the board interviewing. So I think we would ask Mary Beth or Matt to call the references provided, and provide the board some feedback. It was general notes of this is what Dan's references said about him in prior positions.
So that's gonna happen?
Yes.
We're
Yeah,
saying?
that'll
We'll
happen
call
before. Yeah,
references, yep.
you'd want to do that before we provisionally appoint somebody.
Yeah, not like before.
And can we get that feedback? Like, could we get it via memo or something?
Yeah, I'd love to get that memo.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
I don't,
start with the
I
resume.
don't know how this works.
Post the agenda, start with the resumes, and then whenever we call references after that agenda's up, I think we can. get
Yep,
something
we'll
to
forward
the
that and
board
distribute it to everybody.
Friday,
No, I
yeah.
think that you should have
It's a
all
couple
that.
calls, but it's
That's easy.
yeah. easy enough.
Great, thank you.
All right. So. Yeah, and Chrissy, all you missed was that the names will be posted on the agenda tomorrow. We're not saying anything right now.
Oh, okay.
Out of respect for the other people that we also have to call and let them know that it'll be posted on the agenda
Right.
tomorrow. Okay. Budget update. So start with the accountant. Jen, come on up. Whichever, yeah.
I believe you guys all have the local receipts
Yes.
Yes.
back up. All right. So looking at the end of FY26, the estimated local receipts were budgeted at a total of $7.1 million. This revenue is made up of motor vehicle and boat excise taxes, meals, room, cannabis excise taxes, penalties and interest, trash fees, ambulance service charges, rental fees, other departmental revenues, licenses and permits, fines and forfeits, and investment income. At the close of the fiscal year on June 30th, the total actual local receipts came to $7.5 million net of refunds, generating a positive variance of $340,000, a collection of 5% above our estimate. Overall, revenue projections were accurate and favorable, with motor vehicle excise, trash fees, and ambulance charges serving as the primary revenue drivers. Majority of all local receipts ended with positive variances, with only 2 falling short of their projections. Meals tax finished approximately $17,000 under, as well as ambulance charges ending at approximately $40,000 under as well. Offsetting these shortfalls was a new revenue source of cannabis excise tax, supported by the town's one operating dispensary that opened this past September. This revenue stream contributed an additional $18,000 to total actuals. Looking ahead at fiscal year 27, the local receipts projection currently stands at a conservative $6.8 million. This figure was derived by mostly using FY25 actual collection figures. When compared to FY26 actual collections, a positive variance of $650,000 is left. Maintaining a conservative estimate is crucial for fiscal planning. Because local receipts are budgeted below actual collections, any positive variance generated at fiscal year end flows directly into the town's unreserved undesignated fund balance. Once certified by the DLS, these surplus funds are the primary driver of free cash, and local receipts for FY27 are not set in stone until the tax rate is set. Any questions on that?
I just think it's very important that we were conservative in our estimates the year before. We pushed it, and it was tight at the end
was
of the
very
year.
tight.
We made it work,
Mhm.
you know, with some overages that covered where we were short. But I think that going, you know,
We're in a
forward with
good spot.
conservative, we need to keep that.
I do worry about meals tax. That's I think a
Yeah.
couple years in a row that started, and it
Start
maybe
to
is
fall
a.
behind, yeah.
I'm back in the office 2 days a week now. I don't know if everybody else is. Kind of a trend, but that is
That
maybe
could-
something to watch.
yeah.
More restaurants with those licenses.
Yeah, maybe
Those
if
licenses would help. Those, yeah.
And then as far as free cash is concerned, right now the accountant's office is busy closing FY26 and opening FY27. All encumbrance requests have been turned in, and the due date for all article carry forwards is this Friday, July 31st. I have been working closely with Mary Beth to ensure all outdated articles can be closed and any remaining funds can wash back to the unreserved undesignated fund balance. I'm also working closely with the Treasurer Collector Deborah Brun to balance cash and receivables for the month of June. All line item transfers have been processed, as well as most end of the year journal entries. So I'm looking at a timeline to close the books for FY26 by about Labor Day, which will put me on a path to certify for free cash by Columbus Day, early October. And then for anyone not familiar with the DLS Gateway portal, this is where the town submits for free cash. Schedule A, and sets the tax rate. The balance sheet section where the free cash is submitted is made up of 8 different sections. The balance sheet checklist, treasurer's year-end cash report, the cash reconciliation report, outstanding receivables, statement of indebtedness, snow and ice data sheet, and the balance sheet submission. A quick explanation of free cash equation can be done by taking the unreserved, undesignated fund balance and subtracting any personal property and real estate tax receivables, overdrawn accounts, or deficits net of 90-day receipts, and then adding back any personal property and real estate tax deferred revenue. I'm fortunate to have had the help of John Adams, and he'll be here for a few more months through the fall, so his guidance has been amazing. And then once the books for FY26 are officially closed, all the June reports and the July reports will be posted to the website. And that's that.
Thank you. Where on the website is that?
It's under the accountant's page. There's a sidebar, and it has, monthly reports, quarterly reports, each year's budget, a couple of different like DLS definitions. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question,
Yeah.
if I may.
I think Don had her hand up, but
Yeah, who else?
did you have something?
I did.
Ladies
Okay,
first.
yeah.
Well, thanks. Jen, question under the investment income.
Yep.
Does that also include interest income? So
Yeah.
Okay. So we know that the town is now handling the borrowing for the middle
It's
school
interest
building.
and it's gains and losses.
Right, okay. So, we certainly don't want to overestimate anything,
Nope.
on what may be potential increased interest. But can you speak to that, or Mary Beth, as far as now that we are receiving those payments from MSBA and, money in, money out, but there is a period of time where the town is holding on to a higher amount of money, right? Where we may have
Correct.
potential for earning interest.
Yep. Do you want me to take that?
So, would,
I mean, no, I think towards the end of the year, that borrowing is a primary driver of our investment income this year.
okay,
And I know Michelle, is it?
Michelle Newcomb from Bartholomew.
She has done a calculation that we can back up what we're projecting for interest.
okay, right, because the DLS doesn't want you to overestimate, right?
No, and they will come back
And
if-
they'll look at
if they
like
think it's
your prior year, and you should conservatively only budget for, what is it, 95% of that? No.
if it's anything over what we received last year, they'll kick it back.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Okay, now my question
Dan.
is on excise tax
Yeah.
refunds. It's, I know like when I bought a new car and I already paid my excise tax and I had like another month and a half, it was like $12. I'm not gonna ask for it back. It's ridiculous. I would just let it go. But that a large amount, 56 grand,
Mhm.
that's mostly from dealerships maybe?
Mhm.
That they sell the car and they've already paid the excise tax on the dealerships, right? I think that's where it's from.
Mainly from abatements.
Huh? Yeah,
Abatements, which
Oh, I see what you're
causes
saying.
a refund,
Yeah.
especially on leased vehicles and so forth.
so that means sales are up.
And then Mary Beth?
Yes, so just getting back to Don's question, with Bartholomew, yes, we have the bond proceeds came in and paid off the ban, and then that was 30 million on the Whitman Middle School project, and then we borrowed 31 in additional bans to move the project forward. I will say that the project is trending ahead of their cash flow. And so they had done that for a month and then thought it was gonna fall back, but now we're on the third month. And I said, I understand the project wants the money, they voted it. However, we only go up and borrow based on a cash flow. So if they're trending higher than the cash flow, my fear is that we're going to run out of money before March. So I have the district, I have the, Whitman Middle School, the OPM, sending us a revised cash flow because there may need to be what we call a bridge loan for maybe just 2 or 3 months, just to line it up with when the ban is going to mature to get the project where it needs to be. While they're trending ahead, the GC is trending ahead in payments on the project. they are going to, if they're spending more now, spend less later, but it may be after this borrowing. It may be in the next year. So we're watching that closely. But as far as the money coming in, we just recently got in MSBA reimbursement. I think it was about 2.7 maybe. But then we certainly then just had a meeting and 6 million's going out the door. However, we have made, just from the time since we went out and borrowed, I said, let's make sure we get this invested, safely, but aggressively here to make as much money as we can. 222,850.85 in just a few months. So that was great. And I've been saying to Deb, if you get that MSBA money in, try to get it right to work for us. It may be even a couple of weeks before we need to pay money out. But again, as we spend down and as they spend on the project, the interest is going to go
Yeah,
down
it's
as
not a
well.
forever
It's not a
interest.
forever,
Right,
and we can't expect this every quarter.
And our borrowing schedule is such that, we're borrowing what we think we need for the next year. So there's not like a large sum of money sitting somewhere. It's,
Right, we don't borrow for the whole project
No.
because you don't want to,
Yeah.
once we borrow, we will pay payments on it, either interest if it's a ban or interest and principal if it's a bond payment. And then we're putting all of that right onto the taxpayers' bill as well. So we don't want to do that. We want to borrow enough
To keep the
for what
project
they
going.
need
Yeah.
to keep it going. So it is going to be another 2 or 3 years of borrowing before the project is complete and everything is realized onto real estate bills.
One
oh, yeah,
follow up, just because you mentioned bridge loan, so I want to alleviate any sort of nervousness out there that a bridge loan is bad. So can you just clarify again what you mentioned where the GC is sort of ahead of the cash flow? Is that a bad thing, or is it necessarily maybe they're just like ahead on the project, like
Right.
moving along quickly? So you're
Probably a
talking
good
about
thing
this,
for them.
right. They may be finishing early, but like you're getting these bills like, yeah, we have lots of bills because we're moving along quicker than we thought.
That is
type of thing.
absolutely correct. And so we borrow the money based on what they tell us, the
Yeah.
project tells us they're going to need.
For like 6 months at a time.
For
or-
a year,
yeah,
right? For a
yeah,
year.
yeah.
But then, so they tell us how much the cash flow they're going to expend throughout the year. And they've been trending, spending more for the past 3 months. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, if that doesn't slow down, say you overspend the first 6, will you even it out and underspend the next 6? Maybe not. So if it looks like, we want to make sure they have enough money to keep the project going. So if it looks like they're going to go through that 31 million and it's not going to last them as long as they had expected it would, then we would just do a loan. I spoke to our financial advisor, Ben Oglesby, and we'll work with Deb O'Brien. As soon as I get that revised cash flow, we're having a meeting to sit down before I leave and just map out exactly how much will be anticipated, when we would be going out for that ban or bond, and just so Deb feels comfortable with all that. So it's not even, has not been determined that we will need one, but normally we will borrow for a year, then the next year we'll do another borrowing to move forward for another year. We just may need a little bit because of their head of the on the project.
and the substantial completion is planned for December right now for building.
That's for phase one.
For phase 1, right? Then they're going to demolish
Then the
it.
fields
Which
and
is
all of
its
that.
own.
Which is ahead of schedule, because
Yeah.
they thought February school vacation.
Well, they think they'll be able to move students in February, but you need to be substantially complete before you, yeah.
The money that comes from the state to help pay for the school,
Correct.
where's that go?
So the MSBA reimbursements. So part of the agreement was that that money comes to the town as well. They file for it, but it does come into the town. And then when we have our meetings, the building committee meetings, we go through and approve with the committee all of the invoices. And then we get a sign off from the chair with all the backup that comes to the town. And then Deb prepares warrants and the accountant reviews all the backup. So
When
the
that money
checks and
comes to the
balances.
town, we collect interest on it?
Well, that money comes into the town, and this time it came in and it's turning around, and all of that, plus another 3 something,
Yeah.
3 point whatever million is going out the next week. But as soon as it comes in, if possible, Deb is putting it right into an investment to try to
Right, 'cause, yeah,
earn on a
that's
very
what-
short time. Yes, we're putting it to work.
maybe a future meeting, we can also invite either Dr. Marcus or the chair of the building committee, Beth Stafford, get an update on both of our school building projects,
Sure. Absolutely.
or Ryan.
You're not on that committee?
I'm not on the building committee.
Okay.
We're
Oh,
set with it?
thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jen.
And Jackie, you can come on up. So next item is assessor. Want to give us an update?
Let's see.
Jackie Muller.
So I,
Jackie Malaki, yeah.
I actually just have a little bit of understanding what we do in the assessor's office. Because there's two of us. There's Lisa and me. One of the things I wanted to talk about was motor vehicle excise. We get a lot of people not knowing that we can refund back some of their unused months from their excise that they've paid. So we're also accepting real estate tax exemption applications that begin July 1st. That is, it's age, income, and assets requirement that you have to meet. We do encourage everyone to stop in our office, and we just ask them questions. So we look at the chart. We're also asking all residents to verify their property record cards. The reason why that's important is because if there are any errors, they will get assessed for whatever it is on the property record card. The bill generates from what's on that data, on that information. So we are currently going through a town-wide property revaluation. Catalyst, that's our vendor, they are right now, as of yesterday, they are going through the whole town. They're looking at permits, they're looking at any cyclical, any inspections, any property that has not been inspected in over 10 years. They're also looking at sales. So the purpose of the reevaluation is to ensure that all property assessments are fair and equitable across property class, which include residential properties, commercial, and personal property. So that's what they're doing now. What residents can expect are field reviews of the any home that has not been inspected in 10 years. They are also anything that has sold. We're looking at 2025 sales. And again, any permits that have been pulled. So that comes down to growth, the question of the day. I don't have numbers. That is something that I will have possibly October, November. The Catalyst began inspecting that last week. They have over 700 parcels that they're looking into. I will give them more. So I will have solid numbers, I would say sometime in October, November. Actually, probably closer than that, but any questions?
Just add that if you ask Kathy Keefe, I probably asked her when will we have the new growth every week between September, October, November.
You know, the
So,
thing is, because Catalyst does so much for us, we wait for them to help. And then I have to see everything and get back to them. So it is important to us. I mean, Whitman is a great town. So yes.
yeah, Doc.
So you said Catalyst is looking at 700 properties, and
Yes.
those are in the category that they had not been reviewed in 10 years? You said inspected in 10 years?
Correct.
Or-
So there are not 700. So 700 include permits or properties that haven't been inspected in 10 years and sales, 2025 sales. So it's a combination of that. There could be more. I go through our system, I pull a report. I look to see what's the last activity date, and that's what I do.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And you're all welcome to come to the office and talk to me if you ever have any questions.
Okay.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie. It's important.
So clean your house for that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Bob, just introduce yourself.
Bob Kimball, 877 Auburnville Way. I know that we're looking at new growth. Can we assess a building that isn't 100% complete?
Yes.
So a partial assessment, are we doing that after a certain date?
6:30 is our date.
Okay. Then 6:30 is the date for,
So we assess what is there as of June 30.
okay, I thought it was for the fiscal, so it's the fiscal year.
So right now, for fiscal 27, we're looking at anything that was there as of June
Okay, so the new building on Washington Street,
Yes,
it's 60% complete. Is that gonna be assessed at 60%
correct.
of the value?
Yes. Which one are we talking about?
The one next to the old bank?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Another question is, school committee went for a new school bus contract. Are those buses, excise
Oh.
tax on the buses that were in town already
Oh,
taken care
I
of?
argued with that.
Now,
Absolutely.
the contract, you're hitting something I cared about too. The contract they signed requires the buses to be bused in Whitman, Hanson, or an adjacent community.
Right,
So if they move them outside, because they got the contract in Abington as well,
right. No, I understand
would we
that.
lose
So
that?
garaging is what we care.
Garaging.
And I did go through, our billing system to make sure we were billing them.
Okay.
And have we been billing for the existing bus company?
We are billing, I don't remember the number, but there's quite a bit. There's a big number
Okay.
of buses that we're billing. Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing, we assessing or billing personal property such as T&K Asphalt? They got more than their trucks. They got a bunch of large equipment. We've got some machine shops and stuff like that in town. Are we assessing
Yes,
that
yes.
personal property?
Yes. We have catalysts, they go out to personal property as well.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that the company is gonna assess stuff that hasn't been looked at in 10 years. Does that mean they go in the building? Or they just,
They knock on the door and homeowners have every single right to say, no, you may not come in. So we do our best from
okay,
that side.
so I don't have to let anybody in?
You don't ever have to let anyone in.
Okay.
Trying to hide something?
What?
But for example, I got a new roof last week.
Yes.
This will probably show up on my next.
Well,
When
a
the permits
roof
work their way
really
through?
shouldn't
No,
appreciate
yeah.
the value of
You're
your
right.
building
So-
because it's a replacement,
Let's say
not
deck.
an improvement. It's not a
Right,
capital
exactly.
expense.
So we don't typically look at external or
Okay.
roof unless there's 2 out of 3. So roof windows, there's been an improvement on the appearance of your external home. But if you do siding, roof, that's also included. If you just do a roof, no,
Okay,
it's
interesting.
a replacement.
Now, when they go to house to house, they're gonna wear identification.
We've gotten a few calls. We've contacted the police departments, let them know who they are. There's 3 of them that are driving around. They do have identification.
Do they have
Makes sense.
identification on the vehicle?
That's a great question. I don't
Because
Hmm,
that's,
good
a
question.
lot of times, people, if they see somebody coming to the door,
know.
if they look out and they see a letter, even a
Yes.
magnetic sign on the vehicle, it gives me a little more confidence. Thank you very much for letting me
Thanks,
speak.
Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Committee updates, Regional Agreement Committee. So I'll turn that over to Sean.
Sure. Yeah, the Regional Agreement Committee met, and it was a productive meeting for sure. Frank Malisi was a new rep from Hanson. Real nice guy. I felt like he and I were on the same page about, I think, really motivated to come to an agreement, but also, Mr. Trussell, he was there, and Hillary Niffen. It was a really good vibe. I felt like there were some tense moments, but appropriately tense, and I think both sides were really able to get their point across a little bit, and really had some good, honest conversation. The proposal that came back is obviously you got it in your packet, but you want me to read it now?
Sure. Yeah, for the
It was a formal proposal that came back from the committee. This specifically pertained to 2 of the critical parts of the agreement that we've had some tension with over the years. One with being the transportation budget, and the other being the 2/3 vote. So the formal proposal that came back says non-mandated busing, non-mandated, will be included in the operating budget for FY28 while the regional agreement awaits approval. When the fiscal year 28 operating budget is passed to the towns for approval, the school committee will adopt a policy that the enumerated school committee votes will require a 2/3 majority. So basically, Hanson's big ask is the 2/3 majority on some critical votes, and our obvious part of the agreement that we care a lot about is moving the the non-mandated busing into the operating budget. Again, we had some really good discussion, and ultimately this is the proposal that came up.
And so this is a way for the school committee and the towns to basically reach that compromising before the regional agreement is ratified by all parties.
Exactly. There was some question about the length of time that would take, and does that put kind of Hanson a bit at a disadvantage? And it seemed to be like a reasonable compromise.
I think that's reasonable.
They're listening to Hanson's meeting recently where they talked about this. I think they're conceptually okay, but still very much concerned with the 2/3 majority. They want to make sure that they're not missing certain votes or categories of votes that potential 2/3 could work for what they're really concerned about. I have some thoughts about that, but honestly, I think the 2/3 majority is a way, one, to build consensus, which I feel like in many ways, in many different areas, not just on the school committee, but for us and other areas of the community, I think beginning to build consensus should be a priority. But the feedback from the school committee members were a bit concerned with if we micromanage to a degree with the 2/3. Remember, it's the full majority, right? So it's 7 votes. When, say, there's 2 people who aren't there and they have field trips that they need to pass, so it's just the logistical nature of conducting their business, it could hamper them in a way that it's really not intended to do. So that's why the enumerated school committee votes, so that the outlined school committee votes would be 2/3. All others would go back to just the majority. It seemed to be a good compromise. I know Hanson is still concerned about like what are those votes and what aren't they. I honestly think something we should consider is maybe a clause that says if there's a school committee member or 2 that would prefer a 2/3 vote on a certain issue, maybe because some concern of theirs is raised, then maybe they consider it.
Not previously enumerated.
Yeah, you know,
Makes
but
sense, yeah.
I'm certainly open to those ideas, but I think conceptually this is a really good proposal.
Yeah, Dan.
What is the reasoning why all votes can't be a majority vote of the sitting? In other words, if we, out of the 5 of us, if we have 4 here, right, that's a quorum. Well, 3's a quorum, but I'm saying that's a quorum. Right, we can vote on anything. As long as we get 3 out of the 4.
Yeah.
Why? What's the issue with just having a majority vote on all items for the school committee?
Well, I think one, the budget has to be 2/3 already, and that's not, I believe, is that a state regulation?
It's a state, yes,
Yeah.
Yeah. So the budget, voting on the budget has to be 2/3.
Just the budget or any items that affect the budget?
Just the budget.
Just
You
the
get
budget,
formal
okay.
budget,
Certifying a budget
certified,
sense too,
yeah.
yeah.
So at that point, they need to tell, next week we'll be voting on the budget.
Whatever.
Everyone has to be here, at the meeting.
I think their obvious concern is they don't want voting simply based on town line votes.
Yeah, Sean, if I can jump in. So this was a proposal from Jim Hickey way back when we first
Yeah.
reformed this committee. And it was basically the solution to we can't give Hanson another vote on the school committee to make it, or we can't go to a 5-5 school committee.
Right.
Because there are limits around, one person, one vote. Like the
Right.
larger town has to have more votes.
Right.
It's the way that voting works. But having a higher threshold to approve certain items was sort of the workaround there. So it's like you can't just have a town line vote if it becomes a 7 vote, whatever, supermajority to pass certain items. And then this list kind of came out of, well, what are certain items that, approving field trips is not consequential. Ratifying a superintendent's contract probably is. And it's just like finding that line.
Right. I can understand that, like, where it's 6-4.
Yeah.
Theoretically, I know Hanson always thought, well, Whitman's just gonna run the school committee, right, meeting. Because they have 6 votes, we only have 4.
And historically, I think it only happened on the statutory method vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think every other, in my recent memory, divided vote has been some other
Yeah.
alignment.
Right.
But-
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
Ryan.
Brian Pressel, Whitman Hanson School Committee Chair, 210
we
Temple Street.
Continue our
Also the
discussion.
chair of the
Oh.
community preservation, and since we were talking about that earlier as well. Yeah, so no,
He
there
has a
isn't really,
question.
because
I think he's clarifying Dan's question, yeah.
oh yeah, but the idea is that, yeah, like there really hasn't been, other than the statutory method vote, which I think was 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, 2019, I believe. There really hasn't been all the 6 Whitman vote one way and the 4 Hanson vote the other way. You know, to Mr. Evans' point, I mean, the ideological breakdown of the committee is different than the town breakdown. So like there are 6-4 votes, but they've, other than that statutory, they've never been all 6 Whitman,
Yeah.
all four Hanson voting different ways. But I think that my view as the school committee chair is that because the budget is by law 2/3, I think it is a natural thing to say other large financial decisions made by the school committee also being 2/3 makes logical sense to me. Whereas having, we talk about, we have to approve field trips. We have to approve, like, every year when they have surplus books, like their old geography books they want to get rid of, we have to vote to declare them surplus they can get rid of.
Yeah.
And present in my mind was, we had a meeting I think it was a meeting in the end of May, where all of a sudden we had 4 members who were out because of illness. One was a family emergency, one was whatever. We only had 6 members, and if we made everything set 2/3, we functionally couldn't meet. We wouldn't have a quorum.
Yeah.
So I think
exactly.
that we were able to get business done. Now, to your point, Mr. Salvucci, like the budget is that when we vote on the budget, that is well publicized well in advance. And, so yes, and if we had a situation like that, if we had the meeting that the assessments were going to be voted, and we had a similar situation where we had 4 members, we would have to pass over that anyways. But I think that, we could still do a lot of the business, and that, I think that's one factor in my kind of pushback against the 2/3 for everything, is the pragmatic thing. And the other thing is just that the school committee is a co-equal board committee to you guys and to the Hanson Select Board, and kind of giving us like training wheels and saying you have to have 2/3 for everything does make it seem like we are being kind of marginalized in a way, because we are duly elected just like you guys are. So I think that the 2/3 for those major financial, and maybe there was discussion of maybe policy being another one, like if we adopt school committee policies, because that would have an impact on Hanson families in a way that if it was ever a 6-4 vote. But maintaining the autonomy of the school committee is also important to us as well. And so it's not just the pragmatic matter of making sure that we can get things done if we have 4 unexplained absence, because we also have a 10-member committee, so there's a lot more that can kind of go wrong in terms of that way. Getting, it's probably easier to get 3 out of 5 people there for a select board meeting than getting 7 out of 10 people at a board meeting, a committee meeting. So those are kind of the thoughts by that. But I do want to thank Mr. Kane, who joined the RAC, for the first time, and I think came with a really open mind and a willingness to really, because this has been a priority of mine, especially since the spring, to get this together and get this finalized. Because for those that don't know, if you look at the regional agreement on our district website, it is a scanned copy of on a typewriter document, because it's from 1991. It has not been updated since 1991, so it's literally like you can't search it. You can't it's literally basically a photocopy of a typewritten document. So it definitely is very outdated in a lot of ways. And there's been a lot of good work that was done when Mr. Evans was on the committee before Mr. Kane and I were, that has been kind of in limbo. That I think getting these last couple things done, I think will make a huge difference to the dealings between the 2 towns and the district. And that was also the idea behind the creating the policy, so that we can, because the intention of the superintendent, Dr. Marcus, is that the budget that he is going to present to the school committee for FY28 will have all transportation will just be in the operating budget. That's how he's presenting to the school committee. Right now, the regional agreement allows us to either put it in the operational or send it as a separate assessment to the 2 towns. He is saying we're going to put it in the operating budget because of the matters that came up in the spring with transportation. but that budget will be coming before the regional agreement will be voted on. So as a good faith measure, the school committee would vote as a policy, or the wording of it, I guess, would be but almost like a memorandum of understanding too, that we will adopt the 2/3 vote once the budget is passed, even if the final approval from DESI takes a little bit longer. So that's kind of the thought behind that. So yeah, I just wanted to. I've been sitting for a while not saying anything, so I figured I would hop up.
Thank you, Ryan.
So anybody have questions for
John
me
had
or?
some questions.
And any questions for Ryan before we go back, and then Don, I'll get back to you. Did kind of jump the order of the board. No, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ryan. So Don.
Thanks. Sean, I watched the meeting, and I remember when we had the discussion, there were 3 of us who felt strongly opposed to this. So as I watched the meeting, I didn't feel that message came through in the regional agreement subcommittee meeting. There has been a lot of work done since 2017, going back to Dr. Ruth Gilbert Whitner. So this regional agreement has been worked on for almost 10 years. It has come before town meeting. It's been approved by one town. It has been passed over by both towns. It has just gone through many iterations. I feel like we're pulling away from the previous work that was done, because the previous work followed the laws and it followed the math. Whitman right now is in a diminished state already. We're diminished because of what we already compromised on, which was in 2020. And it was that one-time agreement to go with the statutory method, which ironically, we didn't even have to compromise, because Chris Howard told the town of Hanson all roads lead to statutory anyways. So the fact that we did compromise, again, leaves us in a diminished state right now. This town is out of that revenue. Not to mention the previous 5 years of not following the statutory method when we should have been. And that when the taxpayers were not told that there were 2 options, and that we could have said no to that budget and we want it statutory. So to ask to compromise today just feels like the other partner in this just keeps wanting to take more and more. And even a few years ago, it was perpetuated when the mileage method came forward, right? It should have been fixed. Whitman has said we want to use the statutory method. Done deal. Now we're backtracking, saying there should be some form of a compromise with agreeing to put transportation into the operating budget. I'm also confused because at the last meeting, we were given this amended agreement, which is dated August 2025, which was the one presented. And I remember I came before this board back in September as a citizen to speak against some of the items. And then we know the Regional Agreement Committee didn't meet again until recently. They, took the year off. So can you explain the intent of this proposal and how it aligns with this amended agreement? And then I'll give some feedback on how I feel about this proposal. But I don't even have a list. If I was even to consider this, it says we'll adopt a policy that the enumerated school committee votes. Which ones? I think so.
Yeah, Sean.
Sure. Well, I appreciate your feedback. I know that as far as my interpretation of the opinions of the board, you certainly are on one end and fairly extreme, want us to be pretty aggressive about $500,000 or whatnot from the past. That's not me. And I know I don't represent, I'm not going there just as myself, but that's not how I interpreted the feedback from the board. Feedback from the board that I really went with was try to come back with a proposal and see what they have for a compromise. And we talked a little bit.
I don't remember that. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That was my interpretation. I went there to, I said, I think we need to get on the same page. I think FY28, the FY28 budget is really going to be tricky, and getting on the same page with the school district and getting on the same page with Hanson, I think will really help with our community. Being at odds with one another about things that happened in the past and holding on to grudges about that is something that I don't think is going to help us moving forward as we're trying to come back with a regional agreement that is we're going to move forward with. There are people on the Hanson board that feel as strongly as you do on the opposite side. Meeting in the middle, I do think that this is a pretty good middle place. We get the transportation into the operating budget, which is something that we had asked for and that there was some tension about last year. And now they're saying that they're going to, if this proposal is accepted, that they would do that. That's a win for us. The 2/3, I think, is a give, so that's a little bit of a give and a compromise. But I do think it's the big feedback that I take away from some of the core members from Hanson that I really respect is this is an agreement. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be forced what to do. And I know that this stuff is coming down from the state, but there's a lot of bad blood about the state telling people what they must do, as opposed to it willingly being accepted through an agreement. And I think this is a little bit of an olive branch saying, we're reaching out across and saying we want to work together. We don't want to force you to do things. We actually want to work together and willingly move forward, especially going into the 28 budget. There is enumerated votes in the proposed agreement.
Yeah, that should be on that.
Yeah, so there are 8 enumerated votes that are described.
From this August 2025?
Yeah, so if you take a look at that, just have it in front of me. Let's see, it's so there's to amend the original agreement to incur debt for capital purposes, to establish or terminate an employee contract with superintendent of schools, to reconfigure grades within the building, to close the school. So there are specific instances where the 2/3 would
Can
be.
you tell me what section that's on?
It's Section 2 under the regional school district powers, duties, and composition. 1,
Okay, number 3.
3.
Because
And that was referred to in the discussion that we had.
yeah, but at our last meeting, we didn't discuss this agreement at all in these items here. I mean, I just,
If there are, and some of the feedback that Hanson was looking for, I believe, was, are there other items that should be added to this 2/3 vote list, or any items that we have an issue with being on there? I think,
well, I think at the last meeting, I expressed that I'm not in favor of the 2/3. I believe in the way the law is set with 2/3 for the budget and a majority vote for the rest. I don't agree in diluting the vote that Whitman has based on our population. If Hanson wants 5-5, then they can increase their population. I'm again, Dan, you laugh. I'm not joking, right?
Yeah.
The law is based on population.
So you're not in favor of compromising. You're okay with going into the budget with the current regional agreement and being kind of at odds with Hanson.
I'm in favor of the current regional agreement, which is working for us because the school district continues to operate. Since 2017, we've been working on this, right? So I'm getting a sense that there's a rush. I keep hearing people talk about tension. I don't understand the tension.
You don't understand the tension, or you don't agree that there is tension.
I don't agree that there is tension. I agree. It sounds like people are forcing Whitman into a compromise, and I don't see that Whitman needs to compromise.
No, I mean, from my perspective, at the end of last budget season, moving into the town meeting, it was very uncomfortable to be at odds with the school department. One of the core reasons we were at odds with them is over transportation.
And we just heard from the chair that how it's
non-mandated-
going to be handled.
Yes, but what can also be handled is Hanson can vote not to agree to that. So it doesn't mean that it has to be forced down their throat. It means it still has to go to a vote. So they're going to choose to put it into the operating budget as they first present it, but it still has to get passed by Hanson. So we're still in the same spot.
And if it
We are at a
fails,
disadvantage. We were at a disadvantage, and we are currently at a disadvantage based on the way the regional agreement is written. it's non-mandated busing is not in the operating budget, and we lost $60,000 this year. If it was in the operating budget, that's how much we would have had included, you know, so it's monetarily, I know you say that we're diminished, but this makes us, this one gets us on the same page with the school department and Hanson, which I think is huge for just culture moving into the budget season. And two, it does add a bit more money to our budget. So in both of those ways, we're less, you know, we have an advantage that way. We give up a little bit with the 2/3, but it helps with consensus, which again, for me is I'm on board with Mr. Malisi. I think we need to bring the community together. You know, I'm asking you guys to seriously consider this.
And if I could just sort of weigh in, I do think that, you know, we've been trying to get the non-mandatory transportation in the operating budget for a couple of years. This was something that conceptually I didn't see an issue. I didn't see it as a huge gift for Whitman because most of these votes have not historically been along town lines. So this is something that I'm like the most divided vote I remember is school choice, and that's not like a Whitman versus Hanson issue. It's like do we want to open the doors to kids from other communities or not? Like it's a different type of issue. So this feels more like the school committee compromising with Hanson, and we're just kind of here.
I would also say if there haven't been that many votes, then why change it? And I haven't heard much about, you know, there's a lot about town lines with the school committee members, but representation on the Whitman-Hanson School Committee should be almost, you know, not by town lines, right? They represent the district. And I believe that many of them do that. And that's why I don't see that 2/3 is necessary. It's just, like I said last time, that where is the understanding for what the compromise has already been? We already compromised and we said we want statutory. And it's not our decision to put the transportation in the budget or to build the town. That regional agreement says the school committee shall decide, right?
And-
So it's
But
up to them.
on the past compromise, 6 years ago, both towns voted to agree to that. So at least that, to me, that's in the past. We've now got a problem in our agreement.
But I don't see a problem in the agreement.
I have a
So
question.
yeah, let Dan and then
So Dawn,
yeah.
so are you saying that you prefer transportation to be out of the budget?
No, I didn't say that.
All right, so if transportation is put in the full budget, we're saving X amount of money.
Right. And the chair
Is
just
that-
told us that the superintendent
Can I
is
just
planning
can I
to
just
present
speak
the
to that,
budget.
Ms. Byers?
So yeah,
We have a superintendent who has said he would do that. He is also retiring on June 30th. By changing the regional agreement to make it so that the transportation is in the operating budget as the regional agreement, this is a 1-year thing because I'm only chair for this year, and Dr. Marcus is only superintendent for this year. We have to hire a new superintendent this year, and they very well might, especially if there is pressure from Hanson, or if there is a struggle next spring to get the budget passed through Hanson, the new superintendent very well might be like, let's go back to the old way because this didn't work. I'm saying that Dr. Marcus has said that he is putting it in the operational budget for FY28. I'm concerned about FY29, FY30, FY31, FY32 when I'm not the chair anymore.
Proposal only says 1 year.
No, that's not what that says. That is what we are saying is that it will be for 1 year while the DESI is approving because there is going to be a lag between when the towns vote for this. So if we put the non-mandated all transportation, I don't even like talking about non-mandated, but we took all transportation into the operating budget and we put it forward to Hanson, we're going to vote it in March of 2027, and Hanson's looking at that being like they just did it. What we're not we got nothing for it. This is a way to say we are pledging that for that year, while we were waiting for DESI to finalize approving our new regional agreement, we will do the 2/3 vote so they know that it's baked in. If they don't pass the budget, if DESI doesn't agree to the regional agreement, then that is something we'll have to work on at that point. But that is a 1-year agreement so that they know that it's basically almost like a memorandum of understanding between the school district and the town of Hanson while we wait for DESI approval of the regional agreement. So I understand your point. You're saying Dr. Marcus is going to put it in the operating budget. That is not, there's no guarantee that Hanson won't, to Mr. Kane's point, vote it down. I spent a lot of my spring talking to people, going to meetings, coming to meetings like this, and arguing for why people needed to pay for the, you know, the non-mandated transportation. I'd rather not do that again over in Hanson next year, right? I'd rather just have it be settled so that all the towns and the school are all in agreement about how we're gonna handle transportation going forward. And I think I understand what you're saying about the 2/3 vote. I like it as a chair of the committee, it makes me a little uneasy, but it does seem like, again, as I said earlier, if as most of these things are large financial decisions, and the budget is already 2/3, it does seem to be that there is a kinship between these enumerated votes and the budget that makes sense to me. That's saying, okay, these are 2/3 as well. But it is not. There's not a simple solution to this problem of just saying we're just going to stick with the 91 agreement, because there are lots of things in the 91 agreement that disadvantage the school department. It isn't just about the Whitman Select Board. It is also about the school committee and the school district, and there are things in the current agreement that are disadvantageous to us that we want to have fixed. And that is, so the idea of just leaving it as a 36-year-old agreement doesn't sit well with me, because I think there are things that we need to fix. We had to borrow money to bridge the time between when the district's fiscal year started and when the assessment started coming in. There are things in the regional agreement that the new regional agreement around payment schedules that we're going to be talking about at our meeting tomorrow that would help us, so that we're not in a situation where we are without funds for the month of July because of the way that the payments from the towns come. So there are things that are disadvantaging us currently as a school district that I would like to see fixed. And I think that coming together as these, and the largest thing, and the thing I talked about on town meeting floor, is that I really feel that this is a partnership between the town of Whitman, the town of Hanson, and the school committee. We are three co-equal committees that are working together to educate the students of our two towns. And I think that it is important that we work together and that we're not antagonistic towards each other, because I think that only leads to bad outcomes for kids. And I think that you are absolutely right, that this 2/3 vote is largely a psychological gift to Hanson, because it really there's not been an issue where there have been 2/3 votes or a majority split between the town of Whitman and the town of Hanson in terms of their members. This is really in a lot of ways, this is like a symbolic gesture to them. It doesn't necessarily, as far as I can see, have real impact in the way that the school committee functions. And in return, from my point of view, because I honestly do not care how you guys decide how to pay for non-mandated transportation. I just want it paid for. I want our kids to have buses, and that is my goal. And so if we can figure out a way that you guys will agree that this is how we're going to pay for it, and that we'll stop the fighting about it, that is a win for me and my committee, I feel. So that's where I'm coming from this. I don't think that the current agreement serves the town of Whitman, and I don't think it serves the school committee. I don't even know if it serves the town of Hanson either, but it has been locked up for the last 10 years over this. And I think that we have come to a compromise that I think is, at least from my point of view as a school committee member, again, my committee has not met and discussed this formally, but I think that this is a swallowable, I think to Mr. Kane's point, like, the school committee is the one that's making the compromise here. Maybe Justin said that. We're the ones that are making the compromise, right? And I think I'm willing to do that, and hopefully the rest of my committee is willing to do that in order to get the two towns to work with us as we go forward, because it's going to be a rough few years budgetarily wise. I mean, for both towns and for the district, and to have one less thing to fight about, I think would make a huge difference. So that's where I'm coming from this. So,
Thank you, Ryan. Do you need any feedback from the board to take back to the committee tomorrow?
I think we should get some formal feedback. Yeah.
Okay.
My feeling is, if we put the non-mandated busing into the budget, that means that we're saving money down the line, right?
Yes.
And the fact, whether it's a majority of the school committee or a certain percentage of the school committee that has to vote on every item, I think that it would interfere with trying to get business done for the school committee. I understand that on certain issues like the budget, where it's really a big decision to make, that you would want, the certain percentage. But I mean, simple things like selling, eliminating books or whatever, why not just a majority?
So right
It is,
now,
that's what it is.
that's the proposal. Right now,
Oh.
for simple things, it's just a majority.
Yeah.
For things more financial and pertaining to policy, it would be the supermajority.
So what is the issue?
So that's the proposal.
Okay, and what is your issue on that? For me to understand why you feel uncomfortable with that. Or you don't?
Because I'm in favor of a majority vote, as the law says. I don't feel that Whitman needs to,
But if the law said, if the school,
at this point, Dan, you're questioning my opinion, okay? I'd
Yeah.
rather you not. You can ask me to clarify something. But
Okay.
now you're debating with me, and I don't think that's appropriate.
okay, but I was told
Thank you, Chair.
that by the law, it has to be, when you do the budget, it has to, right?
Yeah, so MGL, whatever it is. It's the
Go
regional
on
school
there,
ones,
don't
yeah.
ask me. But yeah, the MGL, the budget has to be voted by 2/3 of the committee
Right.
by state law.
Yeah. So this adds to that piece. I think it's a good compromise. I think this is something that we've been circling for years, and Sean laid to the plan. So happy you, managed to bring that back to us.
Yeah, I mean, non-managed busing could save us money.
Chrissy, any feedback on the? He came in. Yeah.
I got nothing right now, sorry.
Should we take a vote?
Sure.
I'd appreciate a vote.
Are we,
Yeah.
I still have a question I asked you. This proposal
Yes.
that's written looks rather informal, and yet there is this document that you say we're supposed to be going off of.
Yeah.
So how is this going to be incorporated into this?
So if, I
What
think
is the process?
So the process that we're following, and it's a good question. There's a proposal that was made and we discussed it and we went round and round. They said, okay, so I think if we get some feedback from both select boards about, is this conceptually something that you're interested in, knowing that there'd be small details and whatnot, and then we bring it back to the board. We're going to meet tomorrow. So I'll share the feedback with the board, and then they would, through Mr. Trussell and Ms. Niffen, find a way to incorporate it into the proposed agreement. So obviously under the transportation piece and under the duties
And then what's coming after that? My point is, there's a lot in here that we haven't discussed on
yeah,
what
yeah,
may have changed.
exactly.
And
So
I don't
this is-
want to vote on one little piece that we're then going to be bound to, and it's going to be inserted, and then another piece is going to come forward to us, and a compromise is going to be asked again, and then another piece. And we're
I see what you're
piecemealing
saying.
this.
You're
So-
saying by agreeing to this, you think we're agreeing, we'll never be
Well,
able
we
to go
don't
back to
know.
it.
We don't know
Yeah.
what's coming next, and in its totality, are we voting? We haven't gotten to capital, we haven't talked about debt. So there's more items coming.
I see where you're pointing, yeah.
So for this section, which seemed to be the critical part, we want to get feedback on that. Once we get feedback, we go back, and tomorrow we're going to talk about capital. And then there are, obviously, you had the list that you had shared with us last September. And we kind of talked about it and said most of them kind of just made sense, cleaning up some timelines and stuff like that. It was mostly stuff that we wouldn't debate over, but there was just a couple that really were the tension points. So we really wanted to target the tension points first, and then go back and kind of clean up some of the less tense, more practical logistical stuff in the agreement. So
I think it would be helpful, Mary Beth, if you're available. I know you're a non-voting member of that committee, but tomorrow, if they're talking about timing of payments, that's your wheelhouse.
Oh, I'll be there.
Okay.
I plan to be there.
So yeah, I think the process is now this piece, I think, and then go back and hopefully let's try and get a. It's been a few months. Let's try and get an updated draft regional agreement sooner than later for us to continue working from.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea, and I think that's the idea. Yes, I think getting a vote on this critical piece would be helpful before we move forward with the others.
So let's seek a motion
I'll make that motion.
to sort of agree in concept to what Sean brought us tonight.
Right, as far
I'll
as
second
putting the,
Okay.
the transportation, full transportation into the budget and change the way the voting process.
We've discussed it at length. All
I
in
do have
favor?
one
Go.
follow-up discussion on this.
Sure.
Because this says the school committee will adopt a policy that the enumerated school committee votes will require a 2/3 majority.
Yeah.
Do we know if the school committee is allowed to simply adopt a policy to change how the votes are in a regional agreement?
So I'll defer to. Oh,
I don't think the way it was discussed, at least my understanding was not quite that. Not that the school committee would be making a vote to change the regional agreement. It would be, these would be votes over and above what would the majority be. So it'd be the school policy about voting. It's not like they couldn't vote, say, we're only gonna have a majority for the budget. That would be going against the agreement. This is kind of over and above what's agreed upon, creating a policy that, although it's just for the budget and also these other enumerated areas, will create a policy until we get that
until
formal
the regional
feedback.
agreement's finalized.
Has this been run by Mass Association of Regional Schools?
This is all kind of part of the process. Yeah.
But this has not yet been run by Mars or
No.
Christine Lynch or Jay Sullivan
No. Yes. So
or legal.
that's why we say conceptually, because you're aware of the process. It's gonna go back to the regional agreement committee, and then we're gonna work some other things. Then it's gonna come back, and it's also gonna be shared with the school committee. Legal's gonna take a look at it. I think Hanson's having their legal take a look at it now, and then formally it's gonna go. So there is multiple layers. This is just the first layer conceptually, saying, do we want to go back to the committee and say, for these two things, do we kind of conceptually support that, knowing that legal might come back and say, you got to be careful here, or you can't quite do it that way.
Right.
That's part of the process.
I do the 2/3 vote piece in the draft regional agreement was run by Mars and school council, probably 4 years ago. So, but that was as part of an amended agreement with you can go above and beyond the requirements written in the law. You just couldn't do less.
So we're voting on this, and then anything different that comes back would need another vote.
Yeah, and I think ultimately we will need to vote on the entire document in its entirety. With all council. So that's why the process, I would be skeptical of an October town meeting. Even January is a stretch, but at least the policy, to Ryan's point, does kind of put the this one compromise in place before DESI gives final approval whenever they sign off on it. We have a motion and a second. We ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Or opposed?
I just think we're rushing it.
Okay.
That's just my
Oh, yeah.
feeling. I feel like we could wait on this a little bit, but
Yeah, to answer your question, I think we just voicing our opinion by voting on these two particular items. But once the entire thing is all put together, then we voted, town meeting votes.
right.
Yeah, there's some weird lease language in there that we are all going to pause on in a couple months.
Yeah, it's like you're building a house and you look at how you want to build a kitchen and you look how you want to build the living room and then the bedrooms. It's not, it's piece by piece.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
Okay. We'll be back. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Budget subcommittee. Dawn.
Sure. We met today at 5 o'clock. Sean and I, as well, were joined by town accountant Jen and treasurer collector Deb O'Brien, the assessor Jackie Malaghy, and Matt Dyer and John Gallo. And we started with reviewing financial policies as we plan to, from the town of Rockland, using that as a reference point because they did work with the Division of Local Services with Department of Revenue. So we felt it was really a solid outline and plan. We identified 8 areas that we're going to review for financial policies, and we covered 2 of them today: capital planning and debt management. One interesting component of the Rockland policy versus the existing Whitman policy in regards to capital planning. On the Whitman policy, number 1, it says there shall annually be developed a capital improvement budget and a 5-year plan. What it doesn't do is say who's responsible for that in the town of Whitman. And I think that's where we've gotten off track in the past. And as a reference, Rockland identifies that the capital planning committee in their town, with the assistance of the town administrator and town accountant, is charged to oversee a comprehensive capital improvement program, which involves maintaining the capital asset inventory, prioritizing projects, analyzing funding, and creating a long-term financial plan achievable within the town's budget limitations. The Rockland plan goes on to identify who's on that capital committee, but the importance is they have expanded on sort of the framework that Whitman's financial policy started, and identifies who's responsible for that. The only votes we took was to actually refer this section of Rockland's capital planning to this board for review, as well as the second item, which is Rockland's debt management. And we are sending them as is, just for review, not for exact vote word for word, because there are areas in both of these that identify, such as with capital, a certain percentage of free cash or a certain percentage would be used. So those are specific to Whitman that we need to discuss and identify. So that I'll be sending along like those 2 documents so the board can review it, and perhaps at the next agenda we can talk openly about those 2 policies. But I'll turn over to Sean. You want to add anything?
Yeah, it was a great conversation. We had the policy up on the board, and we were kind of line by line going through different sections. I think just one concept that sticks out in my mind that I think is relevant. Seemed like we agree with the fundamental policy that's used for like free cash, and the way that they spell it out, it's excellent. But one thing I think that at least I'm concerned about is how you would deal with free cash in a typical year compared to like the context of our next 5 years. It's kind of 2 different things. So I think one thing that we don't know for sure, but it seems like would likely adopt policy that has been not boilerplate, but used by DLS as best practice, because that's the best practice to use for financial reserves, for debt management, and for free cash. But then also looking probably down the road, and probably with the new town administrator and that kind of thing, for how to write either complementary policy or to create a financial plan basically over the next 5 years, policy that will guide a financial plan over the next 5 years that will allow us to keep our bond rating high and stay on good financial ground, but also, not have these draconian cuts and help us. I'm not putting it to the best words, Don, but
I know
address the context that we're in, given like the pension liability being so high. So there was some good conversation.
Yeah, Dan.
And the question is, when this committee is formed, capital committee, you have department heads come in and you meet with them and they tell you what their departments are gonna need in the next 5 years?
We have an existing capital committee.
Yeah.
The 5-year plan, I don't believe it's even referenced in the bylaw anymore. Maybe it is, but I think the intent would be for us to have a policy that the capital committee is responsible for maintaining, not just reviewing annual capital requests from departments, but maintaining a running 5-year plan
Right.
from all the departments, and work with the accountant,
Right,
town
but-
administrator, whoever we.
Yeah, but they're gonna need to talk to you, because I know
Yeah.
that there was a process where we used to buy so many cruises a year.
Yeah.
Right, or every other year
We
and
so
stuff
yeah,
like
lease
that.
purchase every couple of years,
Yeah.
and that we've moved to just purchasing 1 or 2 every year,
Yeah,
saving the interest.
The conversation was great, but another aspect that we discussed were, like, we're gonna be working with the capital committee. We don't want to be telling the capital committee what to do, obviously. We're starting the conversation, hopefully, with the idea that we're gonna be working collaboratively with them and, you know, support them, and the policy would be something that would kind of bring us together, so we're not working in silos, so more
Right.
collaboration and more organization. Not with the intention to tell other, you know, either elected bodies or individuals, like, you must do this, like, hey, this is in the best interest of the town, how can we work together?
But someone has to take ownership. I mean, we partnered with the Collins Center
Yeah.
back in 2020. We had a comprehensive capital improvement plan. It's on the state website even, and it didn't go anywhere. Didn't get off the ground at all. I don't know who was charged with it, right? And our policy didn't say who was charged with it. So this is giving direction. And yes, you know, ultimately, if the board decides that they're a capital plan, it's a capital committee right now, if it changes to a capital planning committee or however we want to title it, but it has to be identified, right? Who is maintaining this? Who is in charge of this? And I know from speaking in past years to capital committee members too, they were unsure of their role and what
Right,
direction,
yeah.
and they would always say, well, we don't have say over this or that. So there was a lot of unknowns. So hopefully this will create a better path forward.
Yeah, Mary Beth.
And I know Kathleen Otina, a member of the capital committee, has been really speaking about having a 5-year capital plan. That's really been an item for her. So I think it makes sense to have it with the capital committee. And
It
I
was
don't
a-
think that they would be, but formally.
Oh yeah, no, I think it was a
that would-
priority of the 2 chairs prior to Steve Boyce currently. Was developing a 5-year capital plan or maintaining a 5-year capital plan. It just never got off the ground.
No.
It was never like a
Right.
point person to run it. So I think that's the wrinkle we'd have to solve. Is it professional staff who maintains it and reviews it with the capital committee, or is it the chair of the capital committee who's responsible for drafting a capital plan?
Right.
Well, in accordance with the town administrator and the town accountant, it
Right.
does say, you know, they would be on that committee. So, you know, I think there is some responsibility of the town administrator to
Yeah.
lead that and keep it on track. And, you know, it's frustrating that we had that plan and it went nowhere. Also, at this past town meeting, we passed over that article to fund, you know, 30,000 for a consultant or to go out and get a new capital plan. So I think this board should also discuss where we go.
Yeah.
As you head out the door, where are we going with this? So that in our next meeting is going to be in 2 weeks on August 11th, also at 5 p.m. So our plan is to review next 2 items. If we're doing, it took us an hour, doing 2 of them, it would be financial reserves. That we'll talk about our free cash stabilization, use of that, replenishment, forecasting. And a lot of this, one part we liked about the outline of the Rockland policy, it talked about the purpose of each one, who it applies to, meaning the finance committee, capital committee, town accountant, right? Who's involved in the scope of it, and then the policy itself. So it really
It's
was
excellent.
robust.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. Town administrators report. Mary Beth.
Okay, just one item. I was contacted by a local business owner who has some interest in purchasing the Park Avenue School property. And his idea would be that it would be a performing arts school with dance and voice and acting, and that they would have their location there, possibly even have some sort of an auditorium or theater where other businesses could, you know, rent out and perform there as well. I know that we had thought about down the road, community center there.
I think the board took a vote on that, so I think to overturn that would probably seek another vote, but
Right,
at least
right.
as a discussion point.
It just seemed like a very good idea that if we had some type of business like that and we sold it to, of course, they would have to tear down the Park Avenue School and move a school there or build a school there, construct a school. But what that could do, if the proceeds from there could be used to even pay towards the ban for the Whitman Middle School, because any sale would need to go to the school in some fashion. And then what that could bring into our community for just even other businesses in town, restaurants, florists, you know, if there are a lot of recitals happening at this property, it could be a good idea. I mean, it's not anything formal that was sent to me. So I think that an email will be coming with, you know, some more details. But I think it's something just for the, you know, we want to clean up the site at the minimum, right? But when we do that, then that does trigger some things with town council on future uses for the property and the money to do that. So we talked about CPC funds, but CPC funds don't really qualify unless the project that your end game is to, you know, have a project that qualifies with CPC funds. So it was something interesting that came my way. I wanted to pass it on to you. I think that it could be something that it's not building apartments or housing
Right.
or condos. It's a beautiful lot, and it would be
person, too.
nice to have, right, bring a lot of people into town and would help our businesses downtown. So I just thought it might be something, as I learn more, the next TA gets the some more details on it, just for you to consider.
I have a question.
Dan,
When you look at the Park Ave School,
Mhm.
right, to the left of it, heading towards the main street, right? You got all that land, that grassy area. Is that part of the building? Or could we sell a certain distance away from the building and that lower field become a park,
subdivide it into a park.
Oh,
and
subdivide it.
into a park?
I think it would depend on what
plan is.
the plan is. I mean,
Yeah.
this would have to go up for a
Right.
formal
Yeah, it should be a
RFP,
RFP,
and, you know, it's not any kind of a direct.
It would be a nice little park for the neighborhood.
Yeah, Sean.
I'd appreciate bringing it up, but I don't think we should be in the business of selling that property, personally.
I think,
What do you want to do with it? Leave it, let it rot there?
so, yeah,
I think 20 years from now, there'll be something beautiful on that property that we'll be able to develop. I think the next couple of years
I
might be
won't see it.
difficult, but I think it's a beautiful property that
Oh, yeah.
for short-term, you know, relatively small financial gain, there's a long-term loss for the town. I want that property to be around 100 years from now and still be beautiful. Maybe some of that old trees still be there.
interesting. Yeah, that was, I think at least the intent of the board when we voted to, set it aside for community center, future use for community center. I am interested though. I spend a lot of time in dance recitals these days. And I think that if performing arts school is one thing, but I think if a theater were in that site, you're right. Like some of these vacant multi-use, you know, bays could be, you know, florist, a restaurant. I mean, for the amount of people that it draws to Whitman, to that area, could be huge. It's, yeah, I think I'd be interested in seeing a more developed plan or
Right.
what, yeah, and we'd have to do an RFP and put it
The
out
whole
to performing arts schools all over, but it would be
It
interesting.
was just an idea. It was
Yeah,
just a thought that they came forward with. I said,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'll
First thing I'd be
pass
willing
it
to
on.
sort of reverse my earlier vote on.
It would get it back on the tax rolls, and I'm sure language could be written in that it couldn't be
Right,
resold
50-year
for,
lease or something, or
Right.
50-year deed restriction, so that it's not.
so it's not
turned
developed
into-
for any kind of
yeah.
condos or housing, which I know the family of the heirs did not, you know.
Yeah.
I think
Did
it's a
not
pretty
want
good idea.
Yeah, it's not bad. Don?
You just mentioned getting it back on the tax rolls?
Getting it on the tax rolls.
On the tax rolls,
On
okay,
the
because the
tax rolls.
school would not have previously
Yeah.
paid taxes. I'd like to see a lot of things get on the tax roll.
Yeah.
Until you have something in writing,
Mhm.
I'll refrain from commenting further. This is a verbal
Yes.
suggestion, you said, someone just
somebody
called you?
Called, yep, and said, do you have a few minutes, and stopped in,
Yeah.
and it did send a preliminary email, but nothing
Could-
said
could
you'd follow up.
Could we have a copy of that?
Sure. I can send that to you.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I had.
All right. And we have to go into two different executive sessions. So pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel with the interim fire chief and veteran service officer. And then a second executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law and or federal granted aid requirements, to review and approve executive session minutes, June 2nd, 2026, June 17th, 2026, and June 30th, 2026. We will return to open session only to adjourn. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Chrissy?
Yep.
Sean? Me?
Yes.
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 All right, we're executive session. Thank you. Yeah.